I don't even like my cousin, but I said, you know what? She wants me to go to her wedding so bad. I'll go. I'll be a bridesmaid. I'll buy the dress, whatever. Well, you know what? I know now why I really hate her, and I've hated her forever. But let me go ahead and break down this disastrous wedding. There's one thing I've learned in this life. It's that competition is a very toxic attribute in a group of family members or friends. Especially in your family. For any reason you have a brother, a sister, or cousin who's always feeling like he or she is some sort of competition with you, then you need to distance yourself from such a person as fast as you can. When I was little, I grew up to see that my mother and her younger sister did not have a good or healthy relationship. By this, I do not mean that they snubbed each other or weren't a part of each other's life. In fact, they were a part of each other's life to an extreme level. My aunt would always visit our home every Sunday or weekend to see what's going on with my mom or my parents, just so she could measure up and see if mom was doing better than she was. For most of my childhood days, I remember my mom and aunt always fighting and screaming at each other. They fought almost on a weekly basis, to the extent that my dad had to ban my aunt from visiting us. By the time my dad stopped my aunt from visiting our home, I already had a cousin, Celine. Celine was a replica of her mother, and they both acted alike. Each time she came over with her mom, she would try to see if I had gotten any new toys or if I had gotten new dresses so she could tell her mom to get the exact same type. To be honest, I cannot count the number of times Celine showed up at my house wearing the same outfit that she'd seen in my closet, or holding the same doll or toy that she saw me playing with. The same thing applied to her mom. It didn't just end with her wearing the same clothing or buying the same toy. She would get the same color too. So for example, if my mom bought me a pink ball gown as a child and Celine saw it, she would show up at my house the following Sunday after church service wearing the same color ball gown. My mother always knew that my aunt was the competitive kind of sister, and she wanted everything my mother had. Despite knowing this, she still loved her sister and always welcomed her into the home. Also, whenever she saw that Celine was always wearing similar clothing and shoes and would get the same toys as me, my mother did not think it was a big deal. She always claimed it was a coincidence or that the clothes, toys, and shoes were trending, so it's pretty normal for anyone to walk into the kids' store and get them. She even thought it was kind of cute that Celine and I had matching outfits, but I didn't think so. Now, it would have been a totally different thing if Celine had been a cool cousin, but she wasn't. Even at that young age, she had this notion that she was better than me in some way. It was visible from the way she talked to me or acted around me, and another example is if Celine showed up at our house wearing the same clothes that she saw in my closet, she would always talk about how pretty she looked in the dress and how she was sure that the dress fitted her more than it fit me. It always made me angry, but I never said anything to her. It annoyed me that whenever Celine and her mom visit us, my mom would ask me to take Celine to my room so we could play together. And this was always an avenue for her to go through my closet and assess the other things I had in my room that she did not have. So, when my dad stopped Celine's mom from visiting us, we thought that the things would end there, but we were sadly mistaken. I think a couple of weeks after, I returned from school to see Celine's mom drinking coffee with my mom in the kitchen, and it only meant one thing: they reconciled. Celine's mom was my mom's only sibling, and she had a very close bond. No matter how mad or angry they were at each other, they would always find a way to forgive themselves and make up. I wasn't happy about that, and I expressed my feelings to my mom because I was sure the next time Celine's mom came visiting, she would show up with Celine. Each time I told my mom how being with Celine made me feel, she would tell me to be the bigger person and treat Celine with love. She would even claim that Celine, wearing similar clothing to me, and her asking her mom to buy the same toys and shoes were her trying to get close to me. I don't know if my mom was blinded by love at the time, because no matter how toxic her sister and niece's presence were, she never thought it was a good reason to cut off them from us. Now that I share this, I think that my mother wanted me and Celine to have a close relationship with each other as both children and adults, but that did not work out well with us. When I was a junior in high school, Celine got enrolled in the same school that I went to. As annoying as it sounds, it was my aunt's idea and my mom thought it was great. According to Celine's mom, my aunt, she wanted Celine and I to have a great relationship and always be there for one another. LOL, as if that would ever happen. But when Celine started schooling with me, she became a pain in the butt. I don't know how she did it, but she would just show up to school wearing the exact same outfit as me, this was pretty embarrassing. There was even a time I had some parts of my hair dyed pink. It was kind of in vogue, to have a part of your hair dyed back then. Of all colors, Celine picked pink also. And by this time, it was obvious to some of the other people who knew that we were cousins that Celine was in some sort of silent competition with me. She even joined the cheerleading group, just to show me that she could do whatever I could do. There's no asking if all of this was annoying, because it was, obviously. In fact, it was so annoying to have my supposed cousin at my tail. She was literally copying every step, and if at any point she managed to get an item from an expensive brand, she would make sure that she rubbed it so much into my face. If we were having family dinner or coming together for Thanksgiving or anything that required us to gather as a family, all Celine would do would be to talk about her good grades, the cool boy she was seeing in school, or an expensive item that she had ordered online. It was always about her looks, and whatever was going on in her life. She used every opportunity she had to spell out, "Hey cousin, I'm doing better than you, just in case you're wondering." At that point, I didn't need anyone to tell me that Celine had inherited her mother's toxic traits, and I needed to stay away from her as far as possible. We didn't even have a good relationship like our mothers expected us to, and deep down we knew it. We were only faking smiles in front of our parents, so they could think that we were close. Aside from that, what she really recently did to me, one of the most painful memories I have about Celine is her making out with the boy she knew that I liked. I don't know if she was watching me closely or if she must have noticed the way I acted around him, but she knew I liked him. He wasn't the coolest guy in school or something. He was just the kind of cool guy who dressed well, didn't have too many friends, and no one knew what was going on with him. A mystery. One day, I woke up to Celine posting a picture of her kissing the boy on Facebook. Facebook had been out for only a couple years at the time, so if you need to know anything about anything that was going on in a teenager's life or fellow students, all you had to do was check the Book of Faces. When this happened, I was so mad. I wanted to confront her, but my friends actually stopped me from doing that. I even told my mother about it, and she just advised me to let it go. She said it was not cool to fight over a boy. My cousin's worth more, so I just grudgingly let it go. Eventually, I was done with high school, and going to college was my saving grace. To get Celine completely off of my back, I purposely gave Celine's mom the wrong name of colleges that I was applying to. I did this because I knew she would deliver the information to Celine, and Celine would obviously apply to the same colleges. Well, I was not wrong. I was not mistaken, and that's what happened in the end. Even when Celine's mom kept asking if I've been accepted into any of the colleges, I lied. Surprisingly, she broke the news at the same time that Celine had been accepted and even advised me to apply the following year if I didn't get into any of the top 3 colleges. Meanwhile, I've been accepted into a totally different college, and I threatened my parents to not say anything about it until everything was done. Thank God my parents kept their mouth shut. Especially my mom. Every time Celine and her mom came to visit, she would keep asking if I've heard back from any of the colleges. And my answer, no. Then she would pretend to be sad for a moment and whine about how she would have loved me and Celine to go to the same college at the same time. And after a few minutes, she would go ahead to brag about how she just paid Celine's tuition fee and how she was buying all the things that would make Celine comfortable. That was exactly what I wanted to happen, so by the time she realized I was fooling them, there would be no turning back. Well, when D-Day finally arrived and my parents told her on a Sunday evening while we were having dinner that I would be leaving for college the following morning and that they've gotten all that stuff I needed, Celine's mouth almost dropped. Not just her. The expression on her mom's face was worth framing. Even my dad could tell she wasn't happy to hear that I was going to a better college. Of course, she asked how it happened, and I gave her a sad story. I told her I didn't just apply to 3 colleges, but I applied to more to increase my chances, and you know what? She bought it. It was so obvious on that dinner table that she wasn't happy I was going to a better college than Celine, but it was already too late. That's how I successfully got Celine off my tail, and because I didn't want her to know what was going on in my life, I blocked her on Facebook. The only time I saw Celine was whenever we were home for Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Most of the years she would not even show up, and I liked it. I only had to deal with my aunt, who was always asking me unending questions. Most of the time, she would not even need to ask me, and my mom would do most of the talking, and if mom told her I'd gotten a job while in college, she would say something like, "Oh, that's great. Celine just got a job too. Oh, she's so great at it." She always had a way of bringing in Celine or mentioning Celine in any conversation that concerned me. Eventually, I was done with college and I graduated with a good degree. After I was done with college, I did not go back to my hometown because I wanted to start a new life in the state I was schooled in. I was lucky to get a good paying job, and because I had an ex-boyfriend, Andy, whom I believed our relationship would lead to marriage, I thought my life was going well. Unfortunately, things did not turn out great for me. After 2 years of dating Andy, I realized that he was a chronic cheater and a narcissist, so we had to end things. Around the same time I broke up with Andy, Celine reached out to me. A couple days earlier, my mother told me that she had shared my contact with Celine. Celine visited her with her mom after a very long time, and she claimed that there was something Celine wanted to tell me. If I'm being sincere, I was mad my mother shared my contact with Celine. I was in a period of my life where I didn't want any drama, especially Celine, her stupid competitive nature. That same week, Celine called me to tell me that she was in the same state I lived in, and she wanted to see me because she had news for me. I didn't want to see her, but I had no other option, so I agreed for us to meet. Because I was still crying and hurting from my last relationship, I did not look my best. Everything about me was not just okay. My blonde hair needed to be treated, dyed, and my facials were wrong. My nails were not done. In fact, I think the best thing to say is that I looked terrible. When Celine and I eventually met, I could tell that she was happy to see me like that. Even though she pretended like she was concerned, I could tell that she was happy. So her big news was that she's getting married and her wedding was only in 2 months' time. They had fixed the date and started preparation, so she wanted me to be a part of her bridesmaid. She even made sure that she rubbed it in my face and said something about our mother thinking that I would be the first to marry because I was older. But you know, life is full of surprises. Honestly, at the same time, I was not in the mood for her, so I declined. I told her I was in a bad place mentally, and I wasn't interested in being a part of her bridesmaid. Then I wished her the best. From the look on her face, I could tell she was very disappointed, but I did not care. She kept insisting that she just wanted me to be a part of her bridesmaids, and that was all she was asking for. Even with her subtle manipulation, I still declined, and we ended our meeting faster than expected. I suspect that Celine would just go back and tell her mother and my mother what I said, and that's exactly what she did. That evening, my mom called me to insist that she wanted me to be a part of Celine's bridesmaids, and that I should just please reconsider. She promised that she would not meddle in my and Celine's business ever again if I did that for her. After a lot of persuasion from Mom, I agreed. She convinced me that attending an intimate wedding like that would help me get my mind off of my ex and the hurt I was feeling, and I thought it was a great idea. The following week, Celine visited the state I lived in again. That time around, she came with the fabric she wanted all her bridesmaids to wear. Well, it was a beautiful color, good quality fabric, and though it was a bit expensive, I paid for it. As if getting the expensive fabric was not enough, she told me I could not sew with any local designer because she wanted one designer to make the bridesmaids' dresses. Thankfully, the designer lived in a neighboring town, but on getting there, I realized that making the dress with her designer was almost as expensive as getting the fabric. I complained to Celine about how expensive her designer was, but she insisted that it's better for me to make all the dresses with one designer and that the rest of the bridesmaid had already given the fabrics to her. Long story short, I ended up using the same designer after I looked up her work on social media, and when I saw the beautiful pieces that she's made so far, I knew she was so expensive, and I knew why. Even though me buying the expensive fabric and paying to have the dress made, I was still sad. I actually believed that my life would be a better place, and I would have doubted that Andy and I would just end things like that after everything we've been through. 2 days ago, which was, by the way, 2 days before Celine's wedding, I looked at myself in the mirror and realized how miserable I looked. I had turned into a shadow of my former self just because of my stupid ex, and it dawned on me that if I showed up to Celine's wedding looking like a zombie with a big black eyes, bags under me, messy hair, and an overall messy appearance, I would be embarrassing myself. So, when I returned from work, I stopped at the salon to have my hair washed, steamed, and redone. The blonde shade was fading out, and I didn't even realize how horrible I looked. Then the next day, I did my facial, nails, and went shopping for a new pair of shoes and a purse, of course, so I could look my best as my best bridesmaid dress would be. And on D-Day, I decided I would look better if I wore makeup, so I asked my friend who makes herself up to make me up. She did a great job. I showed up at the location where we were all supposed to meet before walking into the church, and when Celine saw me, her mouth almost dropped. She left what she was doing to come to me, and then she began to say, "No, no, no." Everyone wondered what was wrong until Celine started screaming that I looked better than her, so she could not let me walk in with her as one of her bridesmaids. I was shocked, and the rest of the bridesmaids were shocked too. It wasn't like I wore too much makeup or something. I mean, I looked almost the same as the other bridesmaids. Just that I was taller, as I am a natural tall person. I honestly thought Celine was joking until she began to create a scene and she asked me to leave. The people who were around us were surprised too because there was nothing special about the way I looked. I just looked better than the last time she saw me, that was all. Guys, Celine began to throw a tantrum that if I did not leave, she would not walk down the aisle. She called me names and embarrassed me in front of all those people, and I've never been so humiliated in my life. So I swallowed my pride and left her after spending so much on those bridesmaid dresses. I'm making this post because I'm so mad. Maybe as a child I would have let it slide, but not anymore. I've had enough of Celine walking all over me. I must pay her back for the humiliation, for the embarrassment. I want her to feel the same pain I felt. And I also want all of the money back. I don't mind waiting for as long as possible to achieve it, so my question to you guys is, am I the a-hole for wanting to pay back Celine? Revenge? To think that she had even made a post and talked about how her cousin wanted to ruin her big day? Ugh, I look forward to your comments and suggestions, thank you. Update number 1. Hey guys, thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate the love that you're all showering me with and concern. I read all your comments and most of you are saying I should not have agreed to attend Celine's wedding in the first place. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't want to. Apart from the fact that I was still sulking over my recent breakup, Celine and I never had a good relationship. So there was no good enough reason to be part of her bridal train. I won't say I blame my mom for the way things turned out because I also own partial responsibility. I'm an adult now, and just because my mom said she wanted me to do something doesn't mean I have to do what she wants. Now that Celine embarrassed me on her wedding day, my mom has nothing to say. Even Celine's mom, my aunt, acted surprised that Celine could do such a thing. Celine has been insisting that I was there to steal her shine, and she wasn't going to let that happen. Sincerely, I still have no idea what she's talking about. It's not like I was the only blonde girl on the bridal train. If I'm not mistaken, 3 out of the remaining 7 girls were blonde. Yet she chose to pick on me and publicly humiliate me. My mom also has been begging me to let things slide, but that's not happening. Not this time. Being angry has revealed a part of me I didn't know I had. As I'm making this update, I'm still open to ideas of paying back for what she's done to me. Meanwhile, someone here commented that I should address the post that she made on Facebook, and I did just that. I dropped a long comment under her post and she was very furious. Another person commented that I should try asking her to pay me back the money I spent on the fabric and of the making of the dress. I didn't think it was a good idea, but I gave it a shot. Guess what Celine's response was? LOL, grow up, Maya. I didn't force you in any way to buy the fabric or be part of the bridal train. You must be sick to think that I'd actually refund you for making a dress and not attending my wedding. That's on you, not on me. Whoever gave you that idea is sick. And if you came up with it yourself, then you're sicker than I thought. Yeah, that was her response, and the more I read it, the angrier I become. My mom has offered to refund the money, but I don't want her to. She has done enough damage already. I want Celine to pay back every damn dime I spent out of her own money, out of her own bank. And by the time I get started with my revenge, she's going to beg me to stop. Thank you so much for your comments and suggestions. I'll make another update soon. Update number 2. Hey guys, you are simply the best. I love how you're just pouring suggestions and comments and I have no regrets posting here. So I stumbled on something I'm not sure Celine wants anyone to know. Before I tell you all what it is, I want you guys to know that Celine is married to a guy named Fred. I didn't know this until it started actively investigating her social media pages. The reason I'm even sharing this is because I think she's cheating on her husband. Yes. She and I, well, I'll tell you exactly how I found out. On the first day Celine visited me to tell me about her wedding and how she wanted me to be a part of the bridal train, she kept taking calls from a guy named Chad, whom I assumed was the husband-to-be, right? I think she took his calls at least 3 times before we ended the meeting. He just kept interrupting us, and each time she ended the call, she said, "I love you." The same thing happened the second time we met. Though the calls were not as frequent as the first time, I knew she was talking to the same person. From constantly scrolling through her Facebook profile page, I stumbled upon something. Recent posts that she made where she tagged her husband and 2 others. One of those 2 was her mother, and guess what? The second was a guy named Chad Woods. The name rang a bell immediately, and I decided to look up who he was, and to my greatest surprise, he was Fred Best's man, and also his best friend. Also, this is not the first time she's tagged Chad in her post. In fact, I've seen multiple pictures of them together, and with Fred in it. Pictures of the 3 of them at a bar, hanging out, fancy restaurants, I mean, you name it. The Chad guy just seems to be where Fred and Celine go, and I don't think it's a coincidence. If what I think is actually true, then I'll be getting my money from Celine sooner than I expected. If you want, you could think of me as a bad person, because I don't give a damn at this point. I'm open to more suggestions on how to gather more evidence if truly Celine's cheating on her husband with Chad. Already, I have a resentment for cheaters, and I won't let Celine do that to a good man. Let me spell it out. Blackmail. I plan on doing that to Celine, and after I've gotten all of my money, I'll be letting the cat out of the bag. She thought that she could humiliate me and get away with it. Well, I won't watch that happen. Thanks, guys. I do look forward to your comments and the update. Update number 3. Final update. Hey guys, I can't thank you all enough. Thank you so much for not being judgmental and for standing by my side. So many people commented that I should hire a private investigator to follow Celine, and that won the comment of the day. Guys, I'm excited to say that I did as you all said, and I was right. Celine was cheating on her newly wedded husband with his best friend. Pathetic. After I hired a private investigator and he gathered the evidence, I didn't waste time in reaching out to Celine again. I told her that I needed my money and she ignored me. But when I forwarded her 3 pictures of her and Chad making out, kissing, hot, steamy kisses, at a different location, she responded immediately. At first she was so mad and she claimed that I photoshopped that crap. But when I offered to send them to her husband, so, well, we heard what he thought, she began to dance to my tune. To show that she's been busted, she offered to pay me back in 3 installments since the money was nearly $4,000. I said no. I insisted that if she's going to pay back all the money I spent on her bridal dress,
and she will pay it in full. And she did. Days after she paid me, I told her I was sorry. I could not let her cheat on a good man like Fred, and she immediately understood. She began to beg me that she could explain that I didn't have to do anything rash, or else I would ruin her. So, it doesn't look like I was being a devil for no reason. I reminded her for wedding morning that I begged her to calm down and just think things through, but she insisted that I leave. When I did, she said I was the childish one and I should not let sleeping dogs lie. Okay. I told her I would put my dogs to sleep after I forward everything to her husband and block her. As of the moment I'm making this update, my family probably hates me for ruining Celine's marriage. They've been barely married for 60 days, and her husband's already suing for divorce. I forwarded everything I had, to him, and he kicked her out on the same day. She's returned to her mother's house, and I know this has also ruined the relationship between my mom and her mom, but you know what? Ask me if I care. So far, she's been blowing up my phone and sending threats. She even went to my mom's house to create a scene, and my dad kicked her out and banned her from coming back again. I'm so happy to announce that Celine is now miserable, and everyone knows she cheated on her husband because he posted it all over his social media platforms and shared his hurt and betrayal to the world. Wow. His wife and best friend, huh? Best news of the season. On my own, I didn't think I would have been able to pull out something like this. Celine might hate me for the rest of her days, but you know what? I call this even. The dogs can now sleep. Thank you guys so much for your comments and supports and suggestions. I will live a life very fulfilled knowing that I put Celine in her place, and she'll learn to mess with me next time. Anyways, see ya.
I was actually pretty shocked in the comment section when I was reading through some of it, because a lot of people were saying OP Maya went a bit too far by exposing Celine's cheating to her husband, and I was just thinking to myself, I don't really think it was that far. I mean, Celine made Maya's life a horrible experience when she had to fork out thousands of dollars just to get the wedding dress, just to go there and be told, you know what, you look too pretty to be here. I thought that was ridiculous, so no, I think that Maya did every single thing that she needed to do to Celine, and I don't think she went too far. But I do want to know your thoughts, guys. Do you think OP exposing her cousin's cheating to her husband was too far? Let me know downstairs in the comment section. And if you think it was too far, tell me, what would you have done instead? I would love to hear from you guys. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every single day. So go ahead, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for that, guys. I hope you have a great day, and, well, I'll catch you in the next one. And remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.